Good morning. Welcome you all. The China and India, they even of late, as December 9, 2022, the LAC face-off near Yangtze in Tawang sector is still there. This is not the first, not the last one, but it results in injuries to soldiers on both sides. That shows increasing aggressiveness and a violent attempt to enforce own perception of the LAC by both sides. And there was naming near the Tibet region by China on its own. And it is a continuation of 2020-2021 skirmishes beginning on 5th March 2020. Chinese and Indian troops engaged in aggressive melee face-off skirmishes at locations in Sino-Indian border. Pangong Lake in Ladakh and Tibet Autonomous Region. So the problem here is Chinese never accept the line of control, not only with India, with any neighboring countries, because it has got a grand plan to take over the regime of the world leader. They want to be like US, what it was decades before. But they didn't understand by aggression, nothing is won. The land wars, by taking over lands, nothing is gained by any country. So the world has gone to the trade route to, if you want to expand, if you want to improve yourself, go to the trade route, not the land route. Don't, so the strategy, they just build a strategy of having ports and the maritime places where they can strategically locate themselves so that they can rule the world. That is it's not their strategy. It is the Communist Party, one single man guides that country, and that is the rule for them. They want to expansion by threatening. Chinese, instead of going to war, they just threaten. They give all the pressure to the country. They give some loans and they want to have no fruitful benefits from that loan, so that it becomes difficult for the country who got loan from them. They have to seed some kind of strategically important location. That's how they grabbed some island where they thought they need it. They go like that. They go and spontaneously give some loan for some smaller countries wherever they find the strategy. So this is their plot. India on its own, it has never have ambitions of land grab, even from long term before also. So it is keeping that. So what is the connection between India and China now? So Indian land is getting, the China is an aggressor. He consistently, from the Nehru days to now, they talk nicely, but when they go and grab land and they become an enemy for everybody, their main intention is to grab the land for their strategically important goals. So how can China and India go together? So India is, Dr. Subramaniam Swamy also points out, you have to go say, China, you are my enemy, and you have to align with the other countries. Or we know talking with China, never, they talk in front of you nicely, but when it comes to finalizing matters from Vajpayee days, from Subramanian Swamy days, it happened. They accept something, but they rebuff. They are not very good keepers of their promises. So what is the use of agreements with them? And so the world is dividing into two now. The NATO countries, whoever is democratically minded, that's how it comes out. It's not the strategy, but on the other side, the dictatorships of uh, Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, all these countries coming together, they don't have any rule regulation. They will do anything their leader want today. If anybody talks about that leader, immediately there will be problem. That kind of regimes we got. So the country is totally aligned to a leader. So the leaders are more important than the country. So does India want to be like that? So why I'm talking? All other countries, NATO countries, Europe, Americas, they just try to boycott goods from. So they want to stop the trade expansion and the ways the countries who are aggressors from getting money, so that they want to deprive them of the trade, so that they can come to terms, they can realize and understand and mend their ways. So trade sanction against Iran, against North Korea, against Russia now after the aggression of Ukraine, and in a limited manner with China, all they impose just because. So just because they want them to change their ways, some kind of the philosophy of if you are doing something wrong, I don't want to even take your food. I don't want to take your fruits. This is the high moral value they are doing. But Indian government, is it doing that? It becomes so opportunistic. It wants to grab the petrol from Russia, which is killing millions of thousands of Ukrainian and with a land aggression, and it can't say anything because the Indian army and air force are mingled with Russian supplies. I agree. So that's difficult. But what about China? China is an aggressor. You are not saying anything against China too much, and you are mingling with them. You are going and attending some of their meetings, high-level meetings, and still the trade. If okay, I'm just looking at the trade on date. So everybody understood Chinese problem. I tell you, the EU, European Union, and United States, because they understood China's problem. They were second and third biggest trading partners with China hitherto, and now they want to de-risk the supply chains away from China. So they showed declines. So the trade between EU and between EU, United States, and China is going down because of their concerted efforts. It's not coming down on its own. So they understood the risk and they are de-escalating. However, should decline while trade with the EU slid by 3.5% to 262.53 billion. That with the US, it contracted by 11.2%, 217.92 billion. Why I'm talking? While they are making efforts on China didn't go and made an aggressive mode within EU or nor US, but it made aggressive move with India. But what India is doing is, I mean, you can't see that on the two-way trade climbed 4.5% from the previous year to reach 44.34 billion at the end of April. Data from China General Administration of Customs showed India's exports to China also rose by 3.7%, but still accounted for a smaller share of the bilateral trade. In 2022, bilateral trade with China reached a record 135.98 billion, driven by a 21% rise in imports into India. The trade deficit against India has crossed $100 billion for the first time last year. So, say the continuing increase in imports of Chinese goods presented a mixed picture, highlighting a rise in demand for intermediates required by Indian industry, as well as continued reliance on sourcing from China. So, whoever wants to be aggressor against Indian land, who is funding them? India. Does it seem logical? But this government, didn't even announce the problems of that, and even the opposition is not highlighting. So Indian foreign policy is in a mess. So it is funding and aiding the aggressor, China, by increasing money given to them. $100 billion India donated to China to make arms and ammunition and other things to use against even them. I don't say it is exactly for India. $100 billion we gave them. While the other countries like EU and America are cutting down the money flow to China to make it understand its problem. India is helping China to acquire more. So it is replacing wherever, even Russia also. The governments of Western governments are trying to drain the resources of Russia so that they can realize and they can stop the war. But India is aiding Russia to build more arms and ammunition. So is it ignorance or is it selfishness? Is there something so one thing the EU pointed out was when Russia's crude immediately India grabbed when there was trade sanction. This crude was not only used for Indian consumer and through Reliance, like the importance of Reliance Industries for this government. So the Reliance is getting that crude into petroleum products, and that products are sold to Europe. Is it really what India wants to do? Instead of aligning with the NATO or with the West, who really are against China's expansion, do you want to be with them, or do you want to be with with this fluid situation where you are going friendly with Russia, China? What else? Even you can't gain anything from buying from Russia. Russia is not saying a single word against China. So why? So strategically, every second, India is losing against China. So if China comes big and grab our land, it is just one of the reasons is India aided them. So they have to change it. Listen to people like Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, who was in the thick of China affairs, who knew inside and outside of China, or you listen to our Australian Premier Kevin Rudd, who was in the thick of China, and you ask other Australian governments who were so friendly with China. Now only we realize everywhere they have their influence, they buy strategic land, everything. They are aggressors. We understood. We are distancing ourselves. Uh, and Europe was very thick with China. They realized it. They are backing off. Everybody had their lessons. India want to learn its lesson on its own, or can't it see what is happening in the external world and understand from that and cut down their exposure and talk tough on any forum that China is having an upper hand. Don't join that, and you just align with the opposition. Then only you can safeguard India. Otherwise, you become so fluid.